What if the reason your client has no sex drive, no energy, and no interest in the relationship has nothing to do with the relationship? What if it's their airway? I know that sounds wild, but stay with me because I found research that genuinely shocked me. I'm Heidi Hill. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a certified sex therapist with over 20 years in behavioral health. I work at the intersection of medical conditions and mental health because, in my experience, those two things are a lot more connected than we were ever taught in grad school. Today, I want to talk to you about something that nobody in our field is talking about: sleep apnea and sex. Once I started looking into the research on what sleep apnea actually does to the body, I went down a rabbit hole that I wasn't expecting. So here's where it gets interesting. I was reading research on sleep apnea and hormones, specifically what it does to testosterone levels in men. And the data is clear. Men with untreated sleep apnea have significantly lower testosterone. When they get treated with CPAP, their testosterone improves, their energy improves, and their sexual functioning improves. That's well documented in research on men. And that made me stop and ask a question. I couldn't find a good answer to anywhere. What is sleep apnea doing to women? Because almost all of the research was done on men. Middle-aged men who snore. That's who gets studied. That's who gets diagnosed. And women get told they're depressed or anxious or stressed or just getting older. I went looking and I found a study that stopped me cold. A randomized clinical trial published in JAMA, one of the most respected medical journals in the world, looked at what happens to sexual quality of life with both men and women when sleep apnea gets treated with CPAP. Both groups improved. But here's the part that no one is talking about. Women improved significantly more than men did. Let that sink in. Women were the bigger responders, which tells us that untreated sleep apnea may be doing more damage to women's sexual quality of life than it does to men's. And because women are so underdiagnosed for sleep apnea in the first place, they're not getting treated and nobody's connecting the dots. Your client who has no libido, no energy, no interest in being touched, who has been in therapy for 2 years working on the relationship, has anybody asked her how she sleeps? Here's the problem. The sleep apnea picture we were all taught looks like a heavyset middle-aged man who snores loudly and stops breathing at night. Women present completely different. Women with sleep apnea are more likely to report fatigue that never goes away, morning headaches, waking up unrefreshed no matter how many hours of sleep they get, mood changes and irritability, anxiety and depression, difficulty concentrating, low libido. Does that sound familiar? It should, because it's also the symptom picture of perimenopause, depression, thyroid problems, and burnout. So what happens? Women get referred to therapy, they get put on antidepressants, they work on their relationship, they do all the inner work, and nobody orders a sleep study. Here's why this matters so much for women specifically. Sleep is when your body regulates hormones, all of them: estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. And yes, women have testosterone too. And it plays a direct role in sex drive, cortisol, and growth hormones. When sleep apnea disrupts your sleep, it disrupts all of that. And for women in perimenopause, which is typically the late 30s through early 50s, this is a double hit. Estrogen is already dropping, which already raises the risk of sleep apnea. So now you have a hormonal system that's already under stress, being further disrupted by a sleep disorder that nobody's diagnosed yet. And she's sitting in your office wondering why she feels like a completely different person. It's not in her head. This is in her airway and her hormones and her sleep architecture. We have to be asking better questions. So what do you actually do with this information? You don't have to be a sleep specialist. You don't have to diagnose anything. You just have to ask the right questions and make the right referral. Here's what I ask every client presenting with low libido, fatigue, mood changes, or relationship distress. How is your sleep? Do you feel rested when you wake up? Has anyone ever told you that you snore or stop breathing at night? Do you wake up with headaches? Do you fall asleep easily during the day? If the answer raises any red flags, refer for a sleep study. It's that simple. A home sleep test is easy, it's covered by insurance, and can be life-changing for your client. And if they come back with a sleep apnea diagnosis and start CPAP treatment, follow up on the sexual health piece. because based on what the research shows, that may be where some of the biggest improvements happen. We spend a lot of time in our field talking about trauma, attachment, communication, and relationship patterns. And all of that matters, but sometimes the most important clinical question is the simplest one. How do you sleep? Sleep apnea is underdiagnosed in women. It disrupts hormones, it tanks libido, it damages relationships, and it responds very well to treatment. Your clients deserve a clinician who knows how to ask. Follow this channel and subscribe. I post regularly on the intersection of medical conditions and mental health and sexuality because this is exactly the gap in our training that costs our clients unnecessary years of suffering. This is the stuff they don't teach us. Follow me and don't miss it.